charging that's going on. Like just difficult dealing with you things. Anyway, so what I was going to say is I haven't really found a way to be able to do my standing in the morning here. Right, like I typically get up in the morning and I stand until I take my walk, and then after my walk, I recline pretty much. That's how I keep myself alive. Not I need chemo. Like you just so anyway, that's all part of your damnation, but just flipping out over nothing. It's first of all, there's no way to call Spirit Airlines, and it's Sunday. I'm not doing anything until Monday. It's Sunday. Right. Just they somehow I just fixed it. They somehow changed it to Brian Buchanan. And you go, Brian Buchanan has nothing to do with flights that Mary Buchanan booked on Mary Buchanan's phone with Mary Buchanan's bank account. It's part of mental derangement. Right. Anyways, I'll see if they'll answer in a chat, which is probably a virtual assistant. So just know that about Spirit Airlines, right? I wanted to see since they changed the flight time, if I could then cancel his ticket and get the money back because that's something they did, not me. That was the cheaper of the two. I was talking to my sister about it. I go, I paid $78 for two people one way. Right, that's cheap even for one person one way, so I'm not stressing about it. So tomorrow I have to call Royal Caribbean, change it to a solo. They should owe me about $137, even though they punish you for being solo. Amtrak, because I should get 75% of the 4 train tickets I bought for him back. And then what was the other thing? I don't think I need to check on the cabin they assigned us. Right. It was a concern by the photos just to make sure it's 2 beds and not 1. I think that was it that she had a concern about after the photos of the cabin. But I saw last night that, yeah, they do actually separate that bed in 2, even though the wall space looks too small. Right, it's not. You're just gonna have a little walkway in between the 2 beds. You're not gonna be in the same bed. So anyway, um, that's about it. Wait to take my walk. Uh, yeah, it's the little things that annoy you. Whether it's done purposely to annoy me or just it's part of brain disease where females don't have any rights, females aren't ahead of house. It's the complete opposite of my species. Right, my species is like a traditional American family where clearly the woman is the head of the household. She's not like an ogre about it. It's just men want a woman that's loving, and if they're gonna have children, that is a good mother and stuff, and she takes care of them. That's what men want. Okay, that's why you can tell these people are not men. Okay, they might be male, they're not men. They're a different species, and they're not men. Just to return every nicety with the disgusting attack like that dude does, he's not a human being. He's not a doodlebug. But he's a male, he's a dude, he's not a man. Obviously, I think the other species is getting wickedly annoyed because you go, we're Neanderthals, we're not primates in a jungle, so you can go fuck yourself. For real. Yeah, seriously. You can go fuck yourself for real. Clearly, some of these people making these videos and stuff aren't my species either, but they're like, you can go fuck yourself. Yeah. I'm sure that you've all sort of decided that everybody's a primate, so now you're gonna degrade females all over the fucking place. We'll do that over there away from me. No interest in that whatsoever. None. You're neutered males. None of you are dominant male primates. You're all neutered male primates. That's why your species isn't functioning very well. Right, it's not normal to get, like, repulsive and disgusting with the virgin mother, and by any stretch of the imagination, that's not normal. That's some pretty serious brain loss. They can tell that you're what you think of them by what you're doing to me. In case you didn't know that as a neutered male. In case you didn't know that as a neutered male. All of your females know that you're disgusting by the way you're treating me. You're a Christian. It should be obvious by now exactly what happened in Florida. It's been explained to you numerous times. I'm not anything but an innocent woman. Ron DeSantis, Casey DeSantis, Al Gore, the Golf Channel, Florida alimony laws. Okay. Why don't I have any children? I asked that dude once. He goes, drinking? I don't even think he meant it. He's a psychopath. No, that's not why. It's not from drinking. No. Ron DeSantis, Casey DeSantis, and then I even the Lyft driver. You don't know who Ron DeSantis is? Get them all over the fucking TV again, and then watch them again tell you that they don't know who that is. They're lying. Let's go Ron DeSantis all over TV again, and then watch these males tell you that they don't know who that is because they know exactly what you're getting at. They're lying. He's the governor of Florida. He's the governor of Florida. His wife worked with my ex-husband at the Golf Channel together. He outlawed Florida alimony. The governor before him was named Rick Scott, and he refused to outlaw it. It was a 10-year battle as I'm kept hostage up here, and my children are kidnapped and hostage down there. And that's what they made up was going on. And it was okay. Yeah. I'm watching a video last night. I don't know what the laws are in the UK, where now they're gonna make up that a guy locked his wife out of her own house. I don't even know if they're married, but if it is his wife, you can't do that. You certainly can't do that in Florida. Exactly. How did a house go poof that I was a owner of? I was on the fucking deed. Not I was just living in some guy's house. I wasn't living in some guy's house. I was living in my fucking house. Okay? My credit was used to buy the fucking house, and my name was on the fucking deed. It was my house. And I had 6 minors. And you allowed he thought he was doing away with the house and shit because he himself probably didn't realize what the fuck was going on since 2008. He allowed it to happen and thought it was fucking fantastic. Oh, yeah, just anyways, I'm an innocent woman because your population went insane and you people did nothing to help me. Okay? Not you wanna help everybody. You don't wanna help everybody. You have a sickness where you like people that you feel are sick and lower than you, like a Munchausen by proxy, not you wanna help everyone. It's been 15 years, okay? You don't wanna help Mary, so you don't wanna help everyone. You wanna dominate people and then have that sick, disgusting nature about yourself, not you wanna help everybody. Right, just a population of social workers that couldn't get me housed, but they wanna help everybody. Give me a fucking break. They didn't even wanna help me get a power of attorney. They lied and said they don't do that there. But yet I have to take this person out of their hospital because What are they gonna do? They don't wanna release someone who just had brain surgery to the street. Why? Just drive him to a fucking shelter and tell him to stay in it. Right, it's clearly not your fault that this person is a drug addict that's just gonna die, that's not your fault. You patched up his brain, you let him do whatever he was doing, masturbate in your bathroom and shit, whatever the fuck that weirdo chick was, and then you just let him go. Dri get give him transportation right to Pine Street. That's all you can do. Bloop, bye. Right. He probably would be dead already had they done that. I can't do it because my brain. I'm eventually gonna smoke pot again. And then he takes off and smokes a bunch of crack, still lies about it, and then drinks a couple beers and ends up in an emergency room, still lying about his drug use. Person's gonna die. He already is brain damaged from drug use and then the getting hit in the head. Right, you just go, I don't know really how much brain damage was done by getting hit in the head. I'm not really seeing that. Okay. And then you go, any of the names of Mary's children. It's because he doesn't care, right? At the when we went camping last, I think it was, not this past October, the 1st Octo was it October? It couldn't have been, it must have been, like, September or maybe the 1st week of October, okay? We were driven to the campground by my sister, 2024, so we just got married in August, okay? So right, because he took off from here, it was either September or October, so it was before that, okay? We go to a campground for 2 nights, okay? He doesn't know my birthday, I asked him. Okay, so you married a person and you don't know her birthday because you're a rapist. Oh, this was the other thing too. He does not know his parents' birthday. I needed the information to fill out passport applications. He had to text his brother and get that information. You're 38 years old and you don't know your parents' birthdays? Okay. You're that psychopathic. I remember when they called Barbara Kent from USSA. Okay. And all she had to do was tell them a birthday of one of her children, and she couldn't do it. So her card was frozen until her son dropped her back off at her house. They wouldn't let her just use that card anymore. So, um, right. You go like this, though. They didn't ask him that at Spalding. They didn't ask him what his parents' birthdays were. Right. Medically, you can just say he's mentally incompetent. You know he's a psychopath and he just doesn't know because he doesn't care. But medically and legally, you can do it. And I'm his payee, I'm his spouse, and I need the money. Okay, Lindsay at Social Security? Haven't heard from you in a very long time. So, whatever that is, and we had checked our mail. It's only been 2.5 weeks, folks. Okay, so um, what happened after the doctor's appointment, Lindsay? How come I haven't heard from you? Why haven't you made a decision about the person's Social Security application? Because you know the second I have any money, I won't be street homeless anymore. You know that. So, yes, the whole world can be judged on that man. That man doesn't have to be a human being. Are you seeing how you're all being judged based on that man? Yeah, I mean, You need to, within yourselves, stop denying what you're doing and go, there has to be something wrong with us, like, or we're supposed to ask God something because why are we insisting that this woman be street homeless? Why are we fucking doing that? Why are you doing that? They came out with Ron DeSantis, Casey DeSantis, because they're giving you people psych evals, and they've determined you're not shutting off the nuclear weapons because you're so insane. It has to be done to avoid literal starvation. Even if you think it's wrong because you did something wrong, that's not why they're doing it. That's not why God has them doing it. Okay? That's not why God has them doing it. Be to avoid literal starvation because you have severe brain loss. Okay? When you refuse to admit that you're doing something right, that's insane, and you don't know why you're doing it, and you refuse to admit it, you're pretty insane. Hopefully that makes sense. When you refuse to admit that you cannot do something and you don't know why you can't do it, that's pretty mentally insane. Like you keep denying that you're purposely keeping me destitute on the literal street, even when I'm being preyed upon by people. Okay, you keep denying that you're doing it. Okay, when you're clearly doing it. And then you won't ask God or a doctor or anybody what's going on. You won't do it. And then it's okay to keep working because you're somehow, quote unquote, helping other people. So now we're trying to explain to you that you're not actually helping the people that you claim you're helping. Did you ask him what his parents' birthdays were when he was at Spalding? Did you tell him he could literally rip up a POA that's notarized? Okay. Well, those two things were wrong to do. You didn't ask him that because then you'd have to say he's got severe cognitive loss. And I'd already be collecting his Social Security. And then when he took off like that, I would either I'd have the card in my hand. Because it's different after a judge knows about it, and then people can't go. She didn't bring the paperwork into the DTA office. Okay, right. It's different with. I would go right to my storage. We would have already done it. Go right to my storage, get the order from the judge that this man is mentally incompetent and runs off like that. Okay. And then I would have a card printed to me. His card would be shut off, and I'd have another card. Not he can just keep taking it to me by threatening me. It wouldn't function that way. He wouldn't have access to DTA Connect. He wouldn't have an account. He couldn't get into his Social Security on his phone or anything. He's mentally incompetent. So then I have a card. So it wouldn't matter how many times he threatened me to give it to him or he's going to kill me. The card gets shut off. I go right, I contact Social Security and tell them what happened, and they shut it off and give me another one. Just like you can lock your own DTA card and stuff. That's all that would happen had you done things the proper way. I think it's because you didn't want him to get Social Security because then I'd have something to live on. That's why you did it. If you would have asked me personally, and you're clearly having brain issues, that you thought that that person was mentally competent. You're having issues with your brains yourselves. Making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? Okay. Right, just I don't even know if he made it right. I'm assuming he didn't. I was sitting right there and it seemed fucked up weird to me, I gotta say. Anyways, right. And then probably what would happen is he'd get arrested, okay, and I wouldn't bail him out. He'd stay in jail, okay, and then I'd show up at court when the day he has to be there, and obviously a lawyer or a judge would talk to me because I am his payee, and I would explain what's going on, and I would ask the judge if he can be confined to Bridgewater State Hospital. Right. Not just he runs off and somebody else collects that fucking money and I stay destitute in the street. That's insane. He's not gonna stop that behavior. He's gonna eventually end up confined and some other person collects that money, and then you still keep me destitute on the fucking street to be preyed upon. So you're damned for what you're doing. And just all that I can keep explaining to you is that you're too sick to work because that should seem insane what you're doing. It should seem insane that you're doing that. You don't know him. You shouldn't have some personal caring for him, like any of that. You already have incomes, all of you people. You're not homeless. So what the fuck are you doing? So in case people wanted to know and I said this a while ago, I would ask if he can be confined to Bridgewater State Hospital. And I gave the reasons why, unless you can keep him in a jail. If you can keep him in a jail and not let him out, then keep him in jail. If Bridgewater State Hospital is not available or they don't want him, then a jail because he's a rapist, right? You have it. And then, presumably, like I told you, he's arrested again, drunk and disorderly, masturbating in a public bathroom, shoplifting, public intoxication. Um, what's the thing where you're selling and buying drugs? Okay. You have several ways to do it. That's what I would ask to be done. That's what I would ask to be done. I think that it's naive and not going to work that he lives in an apartment with another person, even if it's not me. I think that that's irrational. He's already been in specialized housing, not even just an apartment with a person that somehow is caretaker. He's already been in specialized housing and a halfway house. Now, had you spoken to me before November 18th, I may have said, I think if we're given housing, so far I've been able to keep him stabilized for 5 months. And then maybe a two-bedroom apartment. He doesn't really seem to be interested in sex. Uh, and I'm homeless myself. Okay. But I think honestly, it's really grandiose to believe that another person can do something I couldn't do. On top of the fact that you've already tried to help this man for at least, what, 5 years? He's been at Gavin Foundation 6 or 7 times. He's been in at least specialized housing at least twice that I know about. I think that you need to sort of get it out of your head that you're going to save everyone, like the 99 and the one sheep. You can't be processing things like that in a court. Okay. It's showing a level of brain illness that you shouldn't be working. Had he actually taken off from the campground or met up with someone at the campground and started using and stuff, then I would, if I had been asked about housing, I would have said no at that time. Yeah, I would have said there's no, even at a campground, he took off. So, right, a jail is specialized housing where a man can't take off, and Bridgewater State Hospital is specialized housing where a man can't take off. Okay, so I don't know if when they go into confinement like that, they can't collect Social Security. I think when you're in jail, you can't. I don't know if you want to revisit that. If the person's spouse is homeless and needs that money to get off the street. Um, so, right, you don't want to have a bunch of disgusting people marrying mentally incompetent people to get their Social Security. You don't really want that. But I think you can tell in this particular case that that's not what happened. Right. I've been trying to get Social Security for myself and housing. I felt he never had any chance of getting either one of those because he can't stay sober. And I was told by a lawyer won't even take his case because unless he has 3 months sobriety. So I had this person at 5 months and ongoing Social Security. I was going to attempt to get him to get a lawyer, and he still took off. That's mentally insane. Okay. Um, Also, after talking to the person that I already think is mentally ill, that's mentally insane what he did too. Meaning, um, you stick around to see if that person's going to give you housing before you take off for Mary. Okay. Because I'm pretty sure he was told it's his apartment too, so he could kick me out of it. It's his apartment in his head. And he still did that. I believe that the man has no way to achieve to get and maintain housing. I just don't. Okay, so you're going to decide to either pay for him to live in a mental ward, a mental hospital, or a prison, or he's out in the street, right? Because to me, I think what happened at the last halfway house is pretty significant since he was allowed to use. If they're not doing urinalysis, Your Honor, okay, and he admitted to using a vape, he could use any drug or any alcohol and just stumble into the place because they're not doing urinalysis, and he still left that housing for presumably no reason but mental insanity. Okay? Right. Yeah, clearly he wants housing and he seems more stable when he's around stable people and he's housed, but yet he doesn't want housing because he's mentally insane. Yeah, I think if you don't know your parents' birthdays and you're 38, you're mentally insane. So why he wasn't asked that at Spalding, right? Why uh, they would tell him he was doing good cognitively. I heard them talking to him, the OTs, and you just go, "What? He's doing good cognitively? He doesn't know his parents' birthdays. He's 38. He's doing good cognitively. He's gonna smoke pot again. He's drinking. He's doing good cognitively. Oh yeah, just why did he take off from the Cambridge Public Library in June? Because he's doing good cognitively? Clearly not capable to do psych evals, even just basic ones. You could say you had him on fentanyl and methadone after the brain surgery, that he couldn't figure out a phone number, but then he eventually did, or someone did. No, I would not live with him. Nope, nope, I would not live with him. But if the state is gonna pay to house him, then why wouldn't I get his Social Security, at least a portion of it, so that I have something to live on as I'm waiting for my Social Security to come in? It's sort of like why um, would Alfred and Angela flip out about I collect his Social Security when he dies? Why would they flip out about that when she has Social Security? She worked and she's not with him for money on my house. Why would you care when you have enough money to live on? Why would it be unfair for me to collect the person's Social Security? That case, Your Honor, that they shouldn't even have been able to obtain a divorce. That's a wonderment in itself that they were able to obtain a divorce. I didn't think I was divorced because you just go, how would that be possible? You never even talked to me. I haven't been deemed mentally incompetent. Like no one contacted me. You just don't contact me. And what are you saying? I'm dead? I'm all over the internet. Am I dead? Yeah, you go, how did this guy even get a divorce like that? People are morally depraved. That's how. Okay, people are morally depraved. Already went over last year going to Florida, talking to these secretaries and lawyers that won't respond to me and stuff because they know they're damned. They know they're damned. They know they spent 10 years trying to get rid of Florida alimony while I'm trapped up here. They know they're damned. 2 5-star Prince of the Nail. They know they're damned. So, yeah, people need to keep tabs over at Social Security, Lindsay and everybody else, about when that guy dies. When Al Gore dies, I get his Social Security. It was at least a 20-year marriage. How many years did it take them to get a divorce finalized by pretending they didn't know how to contact me? Parts unknown, doesn't have a phone. How many years did it take them to get the divorce? She has a Social Security fund. She worked. She probably also inherited her parents' house. So ooh, she doesn't need that money. Anyway, um, I don't know how they determine it. I would assume I get at least half of it, if not more than half of it. Right because I'm the surviving ex-wife. Anyways, plus the fact of the amount of alimony owed. But anyways, the second husband, okay, I'm sure he doesn't have much in a fund, but if he's disabled, then that's a monthly check. Okay, so um, can they shut that off if you're in jail? I'm not understanding why they would. For some reason, I thought maybe it's just the DTA cash. Why would they shut it off if you're in jail? That's why Bridgewater State Hospital is better for me, Your Honor. Okay. Because he's mentally incompetent, that's why he's there. So why would you shut off his Social Security when he has a spouse that needs the money? We can make up a bill, a storage. His storage has to be paid. That's a real bill. He has clothes in it, Your Honor. How would I pay it? They like to play games, but I'm trying to explain to you that it's part of being morally depraved because your brains are sick. Eleven. I usually leave about noon. I think I've been leaving a little bit later. Don't I sometimes have that issue in the winter time? But you can't. Yeah, you can only really push it till like 1. 3 o'clock, it's already getting cold and dark. Yeah. No, I didn't do push-ups. That's from not a lot. Hopefully that makes sense, and I've been trying to get this guy confined to Bridgewater State Hospital for a while. Right. I think sometimes greed and denial and being irrational is causing some of this stuff with the Gavin and the CSS and the halfway house nonsense. Okay. Um, 5 months is a long time to still do the same aggressive behavior. So I believe that the man is a psychopath, that's a drug addict, and he can't control his urges, and he's a violent sex offender that can't stop ever doing that. In any type of traditional housing where he's not on a permanent lockdown. So um, sometimes just human decency that you would not want a person out like that that's getting repeatedly, I guess you can presume he's getting raped, repeatedly raped and beaten. Um, right, just anybody that he would be assigned to, he would be looking for that money. Um, right, remember in May when he beckoned me to sell station for money and was screaming at me because he was so high on crack cocaine, okay, and moving like a robot and stuff. Okay. So anybody that he knows has money that he can somehow make up as his, is that the problem that happens with the family? In case they were wondering why this person's never been given Social Security, because he blew through COVID money on drugs. He just went in an Airbnb and just smoked drugs continuously. He would have been dead a lot faster if he had Social Security. That's why they don't give it to people that use. They already watched it happen a million times. So um, yeah, I guess they might say, well, we're gonna put him in jail or Bridgewater State Hospital, but he obviously doesn't need Social Security, and sorry, Mary, we can't help you, and just hope you get yours and you get housing. Okay, well, that sounds rational. I mean, you don't give a fuck about me, but that sounds rational. He doesn't need an income if he's being permanently confined to a facility. He doesn't need an income. He has to be in that type of facility where he can't get out. Because if he can get out, you know what's going to happen. The police have to arrest him. That's what's going to happen. Any type of housing, right? Any type of housing, he will escape from. So, tried to help you, dude. But I mean, honestly, I'm glad that I know all of this about you before this moment. Okay. I'm glad I know all that about you before this moment because it would be more difficult, but I kind of have known for about what, how long now? 6 months, maybe? Um, maybe last winter. Just when I went to court with him and they were interviewing the guy, and then the judge said it's a year at Bridgewater State. I gathered what was going on at that point, and Brian still didn't gather what was going on. He still believes he can section himself, sign himself out. There comes a point where you can't anymore. So what's your parents' birthdays? There comes a why are you not with Mary? What's on the porn in the public bathroom? I think honestly that's why I kept talking about that when God's really pushing that one because that should be enough to get him confined against his will. You took off from your wife within days of going camping for a week, okay, saying you got to get your dick sucked, okay. You blew through your entire SNAP food in 2 days. and you were clearly smoking drugs with the drug addict, and then you report that you're masturbating in a public bathroom and you claim you're watching pornography on your phone. Okay, so you're a sex offender that's definitely at risk of doing more sexual offenses to people, and you get violent. Okay, punching Charmaine in the face, your violent behavior towards me in Orlando, the screaming at me at the bench in Harvard, the screaming at me outside of Cambridge Public Library, uh, what happened at the campground at Pearl Hill where you threw me out of my own tent and then called the police on me and said, enjoy sleeping outside, the stealing of my sleeping bag last November, see you tomorrow, wacko, um, not letting me shower until you had money for drugs that you say is pot, um, then taking off with my sleeping bag, um, and then you went right to the woods to smoke drugs. That's exactly what happened last November after the horror that was Orlando, where the cops had to be called. You're going to smash my face in, just a whole tirade about you're ready to murder my ass. And then you take off with my shit again that's not your belongings. And you're clearly smoking crack. Okay. You're gone the whole night. You claim you went to the movies and drank, and you're vomiting all over the outside of a library in Orlando the next morning, and still being mean and cruel. So honestly, Your Honor, I think a lot of this stuff with me is he's trying to avoid going to jail. I've been told repeatedly he doesn't like jail. It's too bad. Um, Criminals go to jail, whether they like it or not. Right, that's a lot of opportunities to avoid living in a jail. A lot. That's a lot of opportunities to avoid living at Bridgewater State Hospital. Everyone knows about the homelessness. Okay, everyone knows about the homelessness. So again, because this has happened several times, you're 2 days away from a week and a half off the ground before a warming center opens, and you purposely do this and take off to do drugs. Okay, so you don't care about housing. You would take off from any housing. It lacks sense. You don't. I go to a hotel. You don't go to a shelter. Last year I went to a shelter. You don't go to a shelter. Just like 2023, Your Honor. He refuses to go into shelters and warming centers. So, I would say this probably started with him in terms of Bridgewater State Hospital or jail, in terms of what they were going to do with him when he left the halfway house. He was already gone from the halfway house, just so people know, when I went to the shelter after my brother died. He was already gone from the halfway house. Okay. What he was doing that got himself arrested, and then he was using Shane because Shane was getting a hotel through the Salvation Army because he was dying from liver disease. And Shane probably had money, and Shane just wanted a friend. Also, Shane knew me too, so I mean, yeah, you just go, I'm getting you. Now I have the guy that rejected you. People are really mentally ill. Okay, so anyways, um, he went to the hospital and died, and then all of a sudden Brian started hanging around with me, and then of course every opportunity he had to take off and get high, he took, starting with that Tom guy with the vape. Yeah, I remember the moment in Orlando, um, and then I literally was at tears. I literally, like, I still really, really cared and thought I loved this person at that point. I was literally at tears, like, Brian, you're gonna get in trouble. It was similar to when he flipped out on me here. I go, you got to stop. You're gonna get in trouble. I knew someone was gonna call the cops because he was doing it right in public. And then he literally goes like this to me, Your Honor. He goes, "Oh, crying." Yeah, he's a psychopath. Okay? He's most definitely a psychopath. But and you just go, oh yeah, just that I would had genuine sadness and caring. Okay, and that is what his response to me was. Okay, so I don't in his personas, I don't even think he can fashion up sorrow and regret and like crying. He can't do that type of manipulation, right? So he's so mean and has no guilt and stuff and has such a hatred for you that he can't even do that to get out of anything. All he can do, like you see at court, is he shows up at court like he's an innocent dum dum. That's why he does it. That's the only persona he can actually um, do with any success. Right. So, anyways, I don't know. We can. I explained about it's a whole judgment on your system and the world, but also you can presume if finally this actually happens that I'm protecting somebody from him. We can presume that, especially once a person like that contracts HIV. Um, right, because there's a lot of dumb people out there that are just sort of like picking up a person like that and bringing them home for sex, and they're believing his sob story about he has autism, and yeah, it's like really bad the stuff that people are believing from him. They still actually believed he was detoxing off alcohol, even when I tell you it's not that. I took him to a hotel. And that was after he left here, and a week or 2 went by, and finally I went out to Quincy to get him. Even Linda and Jerry were still believing it. "Oh, he's here, he looks bad, he seems depressed." Oh, yeah, they were still all buying that because they don't know him. He's a psychopath with personas, okay? So, I take him to a hotel, and then, of course, the vomiting because I'm smoking drugs, not alcohol. Janine